Hello everyone and welcome to my first ever recent movies I've seen video. I've been wanting to do this for a while now and I wanted to mirror it kind of like my recent reads videos on my channel. So every time I read 10 books, I make a recent reads video. So I wanted to do the same thing but for films because I'm hoping to see 100 movies this year. It's a very tentative goal, but I think it's a reachable goal because compared to books, seeing movies takes much less time to complete one. So I just wanted to talk about the first 10 movies that I've seen in 2020 and I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited to tell you about the movies that I've recently seen. So the first movie, I would say like a movie series that I finished in 2020 was the Imagineering Story. This is on Disney+. This is a collection of documentaries centered all around Disney's Imagineering department. So the Imagineering department is the group of people who create the rides and like the technological advances that Disney has all around the world, and this deep dives into how they created Disney, how they grew Disney from the ground up, how they created Disney parks all around the world, and how they are eventually creating new rides for Disney. And I thought this was such a wonderfully well-crafted docu-series that I just like fell completely head over heels for. And I thought the series was so wonderful. It showed the good, the bad, and the ugly about the Disney parks in terms of when they are about to hit bankruptcy or when they're at their highest and when they're at their lowest. It was such a interesting dive into the Disney parks and the Disney company itself, mostly around the Imagineering department, which I feel like is the coolest department. And it just made me so emotional, and it was just such a wonderful documentary. The narrator was also amazing as well, and I think if you have Disney Plus and if you love Disney, I feel like you should definitely watch the Imagineering Story because it is just a wonderful way to just like gain more appreciation for the Disney parks. And after seeing that docu-series, my dad and I watched One Day at Disney. This is also on Disney Plus, and it is a documentary just showing different people's days at Disney as an employee at the Disney parks or the Disney studios, and it's just a really cool way to learn more about the parks and the people who work there and the people that you wouldn't normally see. And it shows you different parts of the Disney studios and the Disney parks that you also would never see because you're not an employee. And I thought it was a really cool documentary. Not as gripping and emotional and investive as the Imagineering Story, but it was still a good documentary to learn more about the Disney parks. After seeing those two documentaries, I decided to rewatch Inside Llewyn Davis for like the 5th time because I was in my feels, and when I am saddest, I want to see a sad movie, and why not see Inside Llewyn Davis, the most underappreciated movie of all time? This is an Oscar Isaac film where he is a starving artist and he is just trying to get by and have his music appreciated by the masses. He previously had a partner that he used to sing with, but his partner died by suicide, and now Llewyn Davis is on his own and he's trying to make a name for himself. And throughout this entire indie movie, which is beautifully shot, which has beautiful muted tones to kind of mimic Llewyn Davis's feelings on the inside, you also get to see him interact with these really quirky characters who don't understand what he stands for and what he wants to achieve in life. And it just shows how draining it is to be a creative person because people don't really appreciate your craft the way that you do, and they don't see the importance of it. And it's just such a heartbreaking, wonderful, weird movie with beautiful visuals. It's somewhat slow, but I really enjoy slow movies, and Oscar Isaac sings a lot in it, and it is just wonderful. I think it's one of Oscar Isaac's best movies, and I feel like not a lot of people see it, which I said on my Letterboxd is like so ironic because nobody pays attention to Llewyn Davis in the movie and nobody pays attention to Inside Llewyn Davis, and it's just like the irony is just like so loud and proud. But Inside Llewyn Davis is one of my favorite movies in the world. I just really enjoy how gloomy it is. I really enjoy how quirky every character is. Every single detail of that movie, the music, the atmosphere of it, the way that New York City just looks like it's like drained of life. I just feel like sometimes New York City is like that, especially if you live there and especially if you're a creative person trying to have your name get out there and be known in New York City, where you're just one speck in a giant sea of people. It's such a wonderful movie. I would highly recommend it. I want everyone to see it, and it makes me sad that people don't appreciate it, because every time I show it to someone, they don't appreciate it, and it makes me sad. I just want someone to appreciate Inside Llewyn Davis as much as I do. The next movie that I saw was another rewatch, and it was of Zodiac. I was in the mood to watch Zodiac and nobody else wanted to see it with me, so I was like, might as well see it by myself. Zodiac, I believe, is one of the best true crime movies out there, because the first time I saw Zodiac, which is centered around the Zodiac Killer, I was reading the Zodiac Killer's Wikipedia page, and that movie is so accurate, like to a T. Like, the research that they put into it is mind-blowing. It is so accurate to the actual timeline of the serial killer, the Zodiac Killer. It's such a long movie, it's very time-consuming, but I just really enjoy it, and I think it's one of my favorite crime movies out there. It is just so well done. The visuals are also amazing as well. Just like the way it's directed is just wonderful, and I love it. It's such a good movie. Whoever did the research for that movie, whoever wrote the screenplay, kudos to them, because it's like spot on to the actual events that occurred in the 60s and 70s in California when the Zodiac Killer was very prevalent. The next movie I saw is my favorite movie of 2020, and it is 1917. 1917 I saw with my dad, and if I saw it alone, I most probably would have sobbed. It is about two boys during World War I. They are given a very time-sensitive mission to go to this other battalion or group fighting in the same war a couple of miles away to warn them to stop the battle before it begins the next morning, because if they fight that battle, the entire battalion will be killed and ambushed. So these two soldiers are given this mission because one of them, named Blake, his brother, is in that battalion that will die if they don't stop the battle from happening tomorrow. So Blake and Schofield go on this somewhat impossible mission to fight against the clock to stop this battle from happening. And the way that the movie is shot, I'm sure every single person knows, but I'm going to relay the information. The way that it is shot is made to look like this whole movie is taken in one take. There are no obvious cuts. There are no obvious changes between cameras. It just follows these two soldiers as they are going on this mission in a seamlessly filmed way that I have never seen before. But there's another movie on this list that has the same technique. But 1917 is just filmed so beautifully and so flawlessly, and just knowing the amount of time and effort that it takes to film a scene that's like 8 minutes long without any cuts, without any mistakes, is so awe-inspiring. And after seeing a couple of interviews and learning that it took them 6 months to rehearse this movie before they filmed it, I'm just like amazed at how this movie was created. And I feel like George McKay should have been nominated for an Oscar, because his acting is so raw and beautiful, and it's just really heartbreaking. And I feel like if you want to see a movie simply to appreciate the craft of making a movie, you should definitely see 1917, because the techniques that were used were just amazing, and I'm just awe-inspired by it. The next movie I saw, I couldn't finish because it was so fucking bad, and it is The Haunting. So I love The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. It's just like arguably one of the best shows on Netflix. Like, please fight me if you don't think so. It's just so freaking wonderful. So I was like, oh, let me see The Haunting, the original movie, which is an adaptation of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. Let me watch that. So I turned on The Haunting, and it is so painfully 90s that I could not finish it. The acting is terrible. The storyline is also terrible. It's much more similar to Shirley Jackson's original text, but that's not to say it's done well. It's so bad, mostly by the acting, mostly by the special effects, if you want to call it that. It just seemed very theatrical and like melodramatic. It's so bad. The only thing I appreciate, which I think I put in my Letterboxd review, was like the set of it all, because it reminded me of Citizen Kane when he's living in his mansion and everything is just overly large and extravagant. That's what the set of The Hauntings house was, but it was so bad. So bad. I didn't finish it, and I don't feel bad that I didn't finish it. It's not keeping me up at night. So after seeing that absolute crap, I decided to watch Rope, which is an Alfred Hitchcock movie, which I learned about on One Perfect Shot, which is a Twitter which is centered around appreciating films. So they recommended Rope when they were talking about 1917's technique of creating a movie to look like it was made with only one take. So I decided to watch Rope, which is a really cool Alfred Hitchcock movie centered in one apartment after these two men kill a man who they think is inferior to them. So after they kill this man, they put him into this like chest, and they invite a bunch of people over to a dinner party, and they decide to have a dinner party on that chest to kind of just like play with the fact that they are the only two people who know that there's a body in that chest, and to play with the fact that they are superior and they are the only people who are able to pull this off, and they are most definitely able to get away with murder. So this movie is also shot to look like it is one continuous take. It kind of like dollies back and forth between these two rooms in the apartment, between the dining room and the living room, and it just follows these two characters during this dinner party as the tensions rise and their guilt rises, and they slowly go against each other. And like 1917, it is shot to look like it is only one take. It isn't done as well as 1917, but we also have to take into account the time that the movie was filmed, so they didn't have the same technology as they did for 2019 when they filmed 1917, but it is still well done. I think the way that Alfred Hitchcock plays with a room and plays with these two characters as the tension rises during this one dinner party is really well done. I feel like this could be a play that you could see live. It was done really well, the way that they play with the dialogue and the characters and the way that they ramp up this stress that these two characters feel and how they feel stressed differently, and how one feels like he can most definitely get away with murder while the other one already feels like he's been caught for the murder. So it was a really interesting movie to kind of compare and contrast between 1917, because I wanted to see another movie that has that same film technique where you make it look like it's only one take, and I thought it was well done. You could still see some pretty obvious cuts in Rope, but it was still well done for the time. The next movie I saw was my second favorite movie of 2020 so far, and it is Parasite. I saw this by myself in theaters, and boy was that a trip, because I didn't know anything about Parasite before going into this movie, and coming out of that movie I felt like I was on a journey and I saw things. I saw things real bad. During the Oscars, I was telling my two friends that I feel like Parasite is a modern Shakespearean tragicomedy. It mixes tragedy and comedy together in a way that feels Shakespearean. The situations that these characters get into and the way that it like climaxes and reaches somewhat of a conclusion and teaches you somewhat of a lesson feels Shakespearean. It's so freaking good. The next thing that I saw was a documentary, and I saw Miss Americana with my friend. It is a documentary centered all around Taylor Swift's life and her career and her rise to the top and how she just continues staying on the top. And I thought this was a really good documentary. I'm not a big fan of documentaries, mostly because they're heavily biased. You only see that specific topic that's highlighted in a documentary from one specific lens. There's never really like multiple lenses that you see it through, so I don't really enjoy documentaries because I mostly find them to be incredibly biased. So the only documentaries that I like to watch are documentaries centered around a person's life. I like those documentaries that deep dives into someone's life and you get to learn more about their personal life and the strife that they've been through, and you get to see them grow as a person and learn from their mistakes. And that's exactly what Miss Americana was. And it makes you appreciate her even more because like the things that she's gone through is like very relatable. Like the way that she views life and the way that she views herself and the way that she's constantly trying to be better, to be good, to please everyone around her is just something that I can heavily relate to. And I really enjoy this documentary mostly because there is no narration. I really don't like documentaries with narration. I feel like it really takes me out of a documentary and it makes me feel like I'm being told a story. And I felt like because they don't have a narration and you just hear Taylor Swift recounting her life and you get to see little clips of her life from different years, you get to just follow along with her life rather than her telling you a story. It feels much more personal not having a narrator be like, Taylor Swift was born on December 13th, 1989. I felt like that would have made it much more editorial, and this one feels much more raw with the way that they structured it and the way that it feels more like a gigantic vlog, and I just really appreciate it, and it was such a good documentary. And the 10th movie that I've seen this year was Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit is an absolute treat. I did not think I would like mesh well with Jojo Rabbit because I'm very particular in terms of like comedy and satire, but the way that Jojo Rabbit like tells its story is both heartbreaking and endearing, but also laugh out loud. So Jojo Rabbit is about a German boy during World War II, and his imaginary friend is Hitler. So he is very much into nationalism, he's very much into being a good Nazi boy, and all that comes crumbling around him once he realizes that his mom is hiding a Jewish girl in their house. It deals with him coming to terms with his beliefs that have been spoon-fed to him, and it deals with the fact that he is slowly learning that all his views and all his ideals that he's had for his 10 years of life, because he's 10 years old, is not true, and he has to come to terms with the fact that he has to do what's right and what's good is protecting this Jewish girl in his house. While it seems like a very serious movie, it's just so hilarious. I was trying to like describe how my sense of humor is, and I think my sense of humor is I don't like when people make outright jokes in movies and shows. I don't like when they're waiting for a punchline to hit. I like when shows and movies have these utterly ridiculous characters where all their personalities are just kind of exaggerated, and it's just, I don't know how to describe it. Like Jojo Rabbit, they're not making outright jokes. It's just a movie that combines both comedy with serious aspects of World War II. And like there are certain moments where you're laughing out loud, and then there are certain moments where you want to cry. The dialogue, the interactions between characters are so funny and so endearing in certain moments. And it's just such a wonderful movie, and the kid who plays Jojo Rabbit is such a wonderful actor. I can't wait to see what he does next, because the way that he delivered the story was just so wonderful. It was just a wonderful movie. I feel like if you like Inglourious Bastards with that theatrical, hyperbolic type of humor during a very serious setting, then you would also enjoy Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit is much less violent than Inglourious Bastards, but it has that Inglourious Bastards type of comedy to it, that type of satirical comedy that some people may laugh at and other people may be like, this is ridiculous. But I thought it was a fun time. I thought it was a great movie. So those are the first 10 movies that I have seen in 2020. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies. I would love to know your thoughts about them. But I had a pretty good first round of seeing movies. I enjoyed most of these. The Haunting, I did not enjoy, but that's fine. You're not going to enjoy every single movie that you see. Let me know if you're excited to see more of this series. I'm excited to see more movies throughout the year and hopefully hit 100 movies seen in 2020. Who knows if I could hit that goal. Be sure to follow me on Letterboxd if you want to see my movie reviews. They're pretty short and simple and straight to the point, but you could also see like the movies that I've been currently seeing before you see these videos. So be sure to follow me there, and be sure to be kind in the comments as well. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!